everybody, it's Ellen Gormley here. Welcome to my channel. Today I am teaching you the Tunisian simple stitch back bar stitch. So this is Tunisian. It is a method of doing a Tunisian purl but without actually purling. And look how gorgeous this is. It is so nice and uniform. This is the front side. This is the back side. This looks like garter stitch in knitting. It's really gorgeous. Really like it. And this is the front side. It's got just a very gentle nubby texture, really pretty. And let's look at how to make this beautiful little swatch. So I have a worsted weight yarn, but it doesn't matter what size yarn you use, just make sure that you match the correct size hook with it. And I always go up a hook size or two when I am doing Tunisian. So I'm going to just chain a bunch. And then using my Afghan hook, the long hook with the stopper at the end, I am going to do the first row is just basic Tunisian. So I'm just pulling up a loop in the back bar of each stitch, each chain across. So just pulling up a loop and leaving it on the hook. Remember, I have a Tunisian playlist, so if you need to learn more about basics of Tunisian, there's plenty of videos there, including some lace videos, how to make it curl, how to not make it curl. And this stitch pattern by Brenda, it doesn't curl at all. I did not block this. I did not block this at all. It is completely flat and gorgeous. And this is what helps make her top pattern not curl. So I just pulled up a loop in each chain across, and we'll do the traditional bind off, which is yarn over, pull through one, yarn over, pull through two, all the way across. Yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. Now the advantage of this Tunisian simple stitch back bar method is that you get the purl look without having to purl. Now that's important because a lot of people don't like the mechanics of purling. Now, you can check out my Tunisian playlist for how to Tunisian purl, and it involves bringing the yarn to the front, and that's awkward for some people. So instead, she has come up with this method, which makes it look like Tunisian purl, makes it look like knit garter stitch, but in fact, it is Tunisian simple stitch back bar. So if we're looking between my thumbs here, each stitch has a vertical front loop, vertical bar, and on the back side of the fabric there's an accompanying vertical bar on the back, and each one has it. It kind of goes up and over like a rainbow. So the front leg is the front vertical bar, and the back leg back there is the one we're going to be going through. So the first one I think is the most difficult, and so the way I do it is kind of spread it out a little bit, find it and see it really well. The back one is the one I'm looking for. I kind of turn my work to the back, grab that loop, yarn over, pull up a loop in it, and leave it. And so I continue working by turning the work forward and back, up and down, so that I can isolate each stitch, see where I'm targeting the back loop, rotate it toward me, grab the back loop with my hook, pull the yarn through it, and leave it on the hook. So I continue going back and forth, and soon I cannot even really go back and forth, but just look on the back and grab the back loop, the back foot of that rainbow all the way across. And then for the final stitch, then you grab the last two loops of the stitch, just like any other Tunisian stitch pattern, or I should say the traditional stitch pattern. So here's where we are. And so now we will bind off with a yarn over, pull through one, yarn over, pull through two, all the way across for the return pass. This is the return pass, not the bind off. The bind off is the very final row when you go down to just one loop on the hook. This is the return pass. So just the traditional return pass. So it's the same stitch pattern for every row. So again, you can kind of, I think the second row is easier because the stitches kind of pop a little bit better. If you spread them apart, you can see the front vertical bar and you can see the back vertical bar. And so I'm going to put my hook to the back, grab the back vertical bar, pull up a loop. Tilt it, insert the hook away from me, pull up a loop. Insert the hook and push it away from me, grab the working yarn. Oh my goodness, I forgot I grabbed the wrong piece of yarn. Okay. So I'm running out of yarn. Okay, so if you run out of yarn, hopefully you don't do it in the middle of the row. So when I cut my swatch, I left a really long tail, and that's the piece I started making my new swatch with instead of grabbing the yarn that is attached to the ball. So I am just going to hold the new yarn on the back side of the work, insert my hook, and grab the new yarn. Grab the new yarn. Okay, and keep working across. So ideally, I would change yarns at the end of a row, or I would do a forward pass with one yarn, and then the new yarn, I would do the return pass. So I'm just going to keep on going. Yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way across. And it's a little loose there where I joined the new yarn, but that's okay. I will show you how that looks. I am holding the new yarn on the back side of the fabric. So when I flip it over, there's my tail there, and I can just kind of pull them snug, and I'll leave them dangle there. And then at the end of the project, I'll go back and weave those in. And so it's no big deal. Okay, no big deal. So to continue, let's do another row. So you're starting a new row. The first vertical bar is already on the hook. So there's nothing you need to do. So isolate the next stitch, then insert the hook in the vertical bar of the next stitch and pull up a loop. And then the next stitch all the way across. You're just pulling up a loop in the back vertical bar of each stitch across, and that's the Tunisian simple stitch back bar. TSSBB, Tunisian simple stitch back bar. And when you've made several rows of these, it will look like garter stitch. All right, so here's where we are so far. So then the return pass is the same. Yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way across. I'm going to skip ahead to the bind off section because that's all you need to know for this stitch, and we'll bind off together those two different methods. Stay tuned. Brenda Borg told me about this stitch pattern. It's in her new pattern, the Talia top. And so this is a Tunisian top pattern by Brenda Borg, and this pattern is on Love Crochet or lovecrafts.com, and I'll put the link to this pattern in the description below. The body of this project, this top, is all worked in Tunisian knit stitch, and then this placket edge and around the trim is this new stitch that I'm going to teach you. And so she wanted a video to help her customers understand the stitch, so hey, bonus, we get to do it together. Okay, so I'll put the link to her pattern in the description below. So the Talia top, and so she taught me about this stitch, two different methods for binding off. The way that she recommends for her pattern, which is the slip stitch, Tunisian slip stitch, and then what would it look like if you continued it in pattern with Tunisian simple stitch back bar, so that you can decide. So the bind off for the Tunisian simple stitch back bar, you can do two ways. One way is to do it in pattern by continuing to insert the hook in the stitches the way the pattern went for the body of it. And here comes Theo. Hey, Theo. Or the other way is to do the Tunisian slip stitch bind off, which is how Brenda recommends it for her pattern in the talia top. So to do the slip stitch bind off, we're going to insert the hook in the next vertical bar, pull up a loop and pull it through the loop on the hook, like so. So it's a very easy slip stitch bind off. You're just slip stitching through the vertical bar, each one across. So inserting the hook as if to Tunisian simple stitch, and then yarning over, pulling through that stitch and through the loop on the hook. And Theo is shaking the table. Hey, buddy. All right. And then if you were to do it in pattern, it would look differently. Let me show you that. I'm going to get him off the table because he is shaking the table too much today. Okay, I gave myself a new studio, and so that is what's different, and I might have to go back. So in pattern, it would be to insert the hook in the back vertical bar as if to Tunisian simple stitch back bar, pull up a loop, and pull through the loop on the hook. So you would do it in pattern, which means inserting the hook the way you had been the entire pattern, grabbing the yarn and pulling it through the stitch and the loop on the hook. So this is, let me put it down in a moment and show you the difference between, so the first several stitches are Tunisian slip stitch bind off, and then I did a few stitches here. Let me do a couple more of the Tunisian simple stitch back bar bind off, so binding off in pattern. So it's up to you which one you use. Brenda recommends for the talia top to do the slip stitch bind off, which is absolutely terrific. But if you're using the stitch pattern for another project that you're improvising perhaps, then you might choose whether or not you want to do it in pattern. So here's the two different ways it looks. So on the right here, if for the right-handed video, on this side of the swatch, it is Tunisian slip stitch bind off, and these last several are the Tunisian simple stitch back bar bind off. Okay, so you get to choose. All right, so I'm going to set this aside.